It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Oh, look at this. We are live again from the Alico building, the 21st floor, the Pete Sousa Show. So happy you're with us today. We got a lot going on and a lot to cover in a short amount of time. We got Dan Ingam coming up. Take it to the bank segment. He'll have picks. We'll preview some high school football, KWTX game tonight at 7 o'clock. It is a good one. We'll talk to Dan about that also. Cam Stewart will join us. He's got a football game tonight as well. And we know Cam has a lot of opinions. We have Jack in the studio, intern Jack, coming over from Baylor. Of course, Zach on the wheels of steel. We got a full house today, and we'd like to thank Slovacics for making it happen. Slovacics of West, you got to stop there. It's off I-35. They are a presenting sponsor of the show, not just because that they want to get involved here with Rogue Media, but because we think that they're absolutely phenomenal. Also, like to thank Crawford Austin, another sponsor of ours, presenting sponsor. And we want to start today by talking a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot to like about this year's Cowboys team, but one of the things that I think that I like the most, just having kind of sorted through everything after week one, obviously the Dak Prescott deal just makes the offense so much more secure, I think, going into the season when you had CeeDee Lamb and his deal was in question and Dak's deal was in question. That is, as our friend Matt Mosley told us on Monday, good for the locker room. Having that deal done shows that the Cowboys are committed to some of their stars. And I think that the side of the football that really is the most exciting side of for the Cowboys right now, because there's a lot of unknowns, is their defense. What Mike Zimmer has done with this Cowboys defense, I think, is something that will differentiate them from Cowboys teams of the past. If you're going to win, and Dan Quinn did a good job, I'll say a good job with their defense, but it was porous when the time came for them to be great, and they weren't able to be great. They were actually really bad last year at home against Green Bay, and I think that Mike Zimmer and his defense is something that can play well into the postseason and possibly a Super Bowl berth. Dallas has always had flashy offenses. Over the past 2 years, we talk about those 12-win seasons, which only the Chiefs have had better regular season records over the course of those 2 years. But I believe a postseason performance and the Cowboys getting better is going to come with defense. And defense, like Mike Zimmer has brought to the team. Story this morning in the Dallas Morning News talking about Mike Zimmer. First of all, a little bit on his background. He was with the Cowboys. This is stuff that I knew and had since forgotten, I think. He was with the Cowboys from 94 to 2006, won Super Bowl 30 when they beat the Steelers. And Neil O'Donnell, just a tough quarterback there to beat in the Super Bowl. But they won that Super Bowl. And, I think he was a defensive coordinator from 2000 and 2006. Those teams kind of sucked. But showing so far is that he's gotten much better since there. Of course, you can't forget his work as a head coach with the Vikings. And after, by the way, this is almost suspect. This almost kills my argument. For the past 2 years, he's been working with Deion Sanders. He was an analytics consultant for Jackson State, and then last year was an analytics consultant for Colorado before coming over and taking the reins on defense. But he's doing a lot of different things with the Cowboys defense, and one of the things that he's doing is aligning Micah Parsons all over the field, which we talked about this about a week ago. The element of surprise that comes when you go to the line of scrimmage and the pre-snap reads are so different for quarterbacks and for offenses. When you have a player like Micah Parsons that you can line up everywhere, it's a total headache for offensive coordinators. And part of the problem is just scheming for a player like that pregame. But this is something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Let's go to Mike Zimmer. This was him talking to the media following their victory, but he's asked a question about Micah Parsons and how he's been using him.
The way that you wanted to use him?
Yeah, there was a lot of times I wanted to use some other ways, but we didn't get to it, so we'll save him for the next couple weeks. But Yeah, I mean, he's a dynamic guy, and we want to try and get him a lot of different places and do a lot of different things with him. You know, they have to figure out where he was. We got a lot more of the double chip protection in this ball game than we anticipated. And we knew they did it, but you know, we need as coaches, we need to do a better job of helping him out with you know, some other of our alignments so that he's not getting chipped every single play.
Something else that I felt like just a total bonus for the Cowboys, but really isn't. Trayvon Diggs and DeMarvion Overshawn were absent from this defense last year. These are two. Overshawn has been like, I know we're 1 week into the season, so forgive me for getting ahead of myself, but it's kind of what we do. It's certainly what I do. I try not to be a prisoner of the moment, but the performance that Overshawn had last week against the Browns was amazing. Zimmer talked about using him as a spy and his ability to go back and forth and literally mirror the quarterback. Deshaun Watson probably, I'm not sure what is going on with Deshaun Watson, like if he just totally sucks now or if he faced a great defense last week. I do believe that story. You can't close the book yet on Deshaun Watson, but we're getting close to the end here if he continues to play like this. But you talk back to Overshawn, his ability to just play sideline to sideline, and Zimmer talked about that, freeing up guys defensively on the defensive line, not having to worry about when you face a mobile quarterback, which they'll be facing a lot of mobile quarterbacks in the NFL this season. That's just the way it is now. You look at a player like Overshawn, who was not even in the mix before the season started, really, as far as, you know, we had the ability to talk Cowboys a lot over the course of the summer. And one of the things that we noted and was noted to us by the likes of Brad Sham, play-by-play guy for the Cowboys, was that they lost a lot of key pieces over the course of the offseason. And there was a feeling as though they didn't replenish some of what they lost. But I think that, you know, maybe I don't want to say forgotten. You really can't forget Trayvon Diggs, but he is back from an ACL looking to be 100%. Overshawn was something of a revelation, really. Third round pick, missed all of last season with the torn ACL, had 9 tackles, a sack, a couple hurries, and just did a tremendous job. I want to hear a little bit now. You can hear this gentleman, by the way, on the Doomsday podcast with our own Matt Mosley. The problem is that I didn't have time to listen to Matt's entire podcast, and there were a couple clips that jumped out to me of Ed Werder, formerly of ESPN. He's kind of forever of ESPN and the Dallas Morning News, but now he is working with WFAA covering the Cowboys. This is a quick clip of him doing a wonderful job of summarizing the threat that Dallas's defense played in Cleveland on Sunday.
In terms of creating pressure on the quarterback. They had 6 sacks in the game. They had 2 takeaways. Since the Cowboys drafted the next guy who's going to get paid, Micah Parsons, they've had 12 games with 5 or more sacks. That's the most in the NFL, by 1 over Kansas City and the Eagles. And you saw speed all over the field. The takeaways, across many of the metrics, it was the worst game of Deshaun Watson's career. He went 0 for 9 throwing the ball beyond 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. He had very few completions when he was under pressure. And oh, by the way, the Cowboys recorded 25 pressures in the game.
Dude, 25 pressures in the NFL, that's ridiculous. And that's something that can give any quarterback a nightmare, not just Deshaun Watson. That's why I want to kind of give him a little bit of breathing room. We'll find out more about the Cowboys this Sunday. We'll continue to learn, right? We got another Tom Brady game, which I'm pumped about. It's a noon kickoff. I haven't like totally dug into the schedule, but do you think Cowboys Saints with the Tom Brady crew would be 325? Clearly there's something else in place previous, but so you got a noon kick. Cowboys are a 6-point favorite at home against the Saints. We're going to have Dan Ingam come in here shortly to talk to him a little bit about some of his picks. He had the Cowboys last week. Cowboys were a dog last week, which I thought was ridiculous, and they proved it to be ridiculous. A 6-point favorite at home against the Saints. I think that they crushed that, and that they, the Cowboys take care of business. And we mentioned the Tom Brady effect, right? And the fact that there is just, I think you could say there's a lot of heat around the NFL right now. It is week 1 is in the rearview mirror. But looking forward to games tonight, which we'll talk to, or one game tonight, not the college football game. We'll talk about those shortly. But yesterday was released the NFL ratings for television viewership or streaming or however the hell they do it now. But 21 million viewers a game during week one. That is the most watched week one on record. Now, the league and Nielsen said yesterday morning that the per game average on TV and digital platforms was a 12% increase over last year. All told, I mean, you want to talk about, okay, so this is week one. And let's take a look back at the Super Bowl last year just to kind of give some context. 123 million people watched at least part of the Super Bowl last year. That is the highest total. I guess like that's the highest total ever. Yes, that's correct. So that gives you an idea there of the crescendo of the regular season. But there is nothing on earth, like literally nothing on earth that compares to the draw that the NFL has and the way that it brings people together. We were talking about this with Cam. I think it was off cam with Cam earlier this week, but I think it is underrated just how much it brings communities together and people together. And we've seen society be fractured over the course of the past, at least we can start in 2020. And it feels like slowly but surely we're able to breathe a little more and we're able to have a little more fun. And when you look at 21 million people rallying around the NFL to enjoy themselves and to have fun and watch the NFL, it's amazing. And I want to give some perspective as to how much the world has changed, but the NFL has only grown stronger. Back when I was a kid, Johnny Carson, and this is really before I was a kid, I'm not that old, but Johnny Carson would draw around 9 million a night, 10 million, 11 million. That's kind of how he floated around that average. In his last week on the air, he was averaging 19 million a night. His final week on the air was 55 million people watching The Tonight Show. Okay. That is like a ridiculous number of people to watch a late night television show. And I'm going to give you an example of just how ridiculous that number is. Jimmy Kimmel led the late night guys last year, averaging 2.27 million viewers a night. Like, now there's a lot of reasons why people don't watch late night anymore. I would say, my opinion, because the content sucks. But there's also other reasons too. There's so many other choices and so many other things that people can watch. And some of the comedy there has been taken away from the late night shows. So we're not here to handicap them or break those down or analyze them, but the numbers speak for themselves. You know, the change has been stark, but if you look at the NFL, it's only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. 123 million people, like we mentioned, watched the Super Bowl last year. That's a ridiculous number, but it speaks to how the NFL continues to grow. It's like the one thing that you really, you just can count on that. Like the NFL and people going to church, like forget about it. It's happening every Sunday and it's happening big time numbers in support of it. One of the things I wanted to talk about too, another thing I wanted to cover here as we get move through this first segment, more movement in college football. Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State are going to join Oregon State and Washington State in the Pac-12. My first request is, can we please go back to the Pac-10? But obviously when it comes down to branding and money making and situations like that, that's not going to happen. They'll join the first season. They'll play immediately. I thought, well, it's 2024. I hope this happens by 2025 because I believe there's so much movement in major college sports, especially when you get to the Power Four conferences. And I don't know what the heck you would call the Pac-12, but it's out of that mix now, especially with these schools leaving the Mountain West. But the first season that they'll play, all these schools together, will be in 2026. It's actually $18 million to buy out of the Mountain West, and that's over 2 years. If they wanted to do it right away, it will be $36 million. So if they wanted to jump to the Pac-10 next year, I say Pac-10, I'm trying to will it into existence. If they wanted to jump into the Pac-12 next year, it would be $36 million. So obviously that wouldn't make any sense. A lot of interest there. First of all, it's a bummer that the Mountain West is kind of breaking up. I used to do stats for my man Roy Philpott during college football, and I did a lot of Mountain West games working with him. A lot of time in Boise State, Utah State, Fresno State. All those schools we're talking about, Colorado State, and it's a pretty cool brand of football. And ultimately, we're looking at now a haves and have-nots situation. And I'll be curious to see if it turns out that Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State joining these schools, if they become the haves. Right now, I would imagine they will become the have-nots. And I would imagine, too, like I said, I believe there's so much movement anticipated that, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that even comes to fruition or if something totally different takes shape as we get closer to college football becoming sort of like pro sports. Locally here, just up the road, I thought this was cool because I'm an old school football guy and I like the history of football and I like the Cotton Bowl. And this was like a real shot in the arm for the Cotton Bowl. This has been announced a while back, I think it was December, that they're going to continue to host OU Texas in the Red River rivalry until 2036. The city, I didn't know this. This was news to me when I read it. The city pays each school, Texas and Oklahoma, $1.5 million a year. That's a hosting fee for them to continue to come and play that game in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. And that game is a huge moneymaker when you think about what goes on with the state fair and then exactly what goes on around that game, the pageantry, the people. But if you've been to the Cotton Bowl, I haven't been to I was there, I guess, in 2018. It's a real dump. And they got some serious work to do. And so yesterday, the city council approved, this is the Dallas City Council, an additional $65 million in upgrades to the Cotton Bowl. That's the last, or should I say the latest sum of money that is part of the ongoing $140 million renovation to the stadium. And so it's planned to be complete by the fall of 2025. If it's not completed by 2026, the schools can back out. This is a 94-year-old stadium. I mean, you're not playing games or sports in stadiums that were created, I was going to say erected, the stadiums that were created 94 years ago. It just doesn't happen. So that's pretty special what is going on there. And I guess you kind of got to tip the cap to Texas and Oklahoma. Clearly they're getting it made worth their while. And I was also interested too. Let's see exactly. This is again from the Dallas Morning News. The renovations. So the $65 million we just talked about, it's expected to pay for improving bathrooms. Bathrooms are awful. Concession spaces, expanding concourses, installing more elevators and escalators. I mean, we're talking about an ancient building. Mechanical, plumbing, and security improvements, and building upgrades, including the venue's entrance and seating and boosting the in-stadium Wi-Fi signal. Like, they're not talking about putting in like luxury boxes. They're like literally talking about keeping this place functional, except for the Wi-Fi signal, which, I mean, how much can that cost in 2024? So but pulling for the Cotton Bowl. I mean, all the major events and huge games and its affiliation with the fair and that Red River rivalry is a lot of fun. And I really look forward to that game staying there through 2036. But like we just talked about with the changes going on conference-wise and with the Mountain West, who knows? Anything really is possible. Football tonight, we'll talk a little bit about Dan. We'll talk with Dan about this. But I'm so looking forward to a game that sort of kind of jumped out at me on the schedule. Texas State hosting a home game tonight, a Thursday night football game in San Marcos. G.J. Kinney, their head coach, talked about really second year now at Texas State after making leaps and bounds of improvements in his first season as the head man. Now they are hosting Arizona State in a game where not on the field they're even, And you imagine in the stands, this should be a raucous crowd and a great environment. If you've ever been to that school or been in San Marcos in that area, I don't want to call it a sleeping giant, but there is a lot of potential there around that school, around that stadium, around that area. And I feel like a game like tonight is an opportunity for all of America to see, and also for recruits to see just how capable Texas State is of putting something special together down there in the Sun Belt. Last thing I want to talk about before we talk with Dan Ingam, this story blows my mind as far as things that happen and the chances, like chance encounters or happenings in our world. So Joe Buck, right? His wife, Michelle Beisner Buck, who I could tell you all about this, having recently finished Joe Buck's book. Listen to it. I'm an audio guy. We know that if we listen to this show at all. But, you know, he got divorced, falls in love with Michelle. They've been together for a long time. Michelle Beisner, now Beisner Buck. But they're super tight. You can tell they do all kinds of stuff together. They're obviously like, I shouldn't say obviously. I have no clue what's going on behind closed doors, but they do a nice job of making people think that they're in love. So, you know, who doesn't love a good love story? Anyways, these two are goofing around, having fun, going to play golf. He's on the tee box, right? Now, first of all, this behavior on a golf course, it's hard not to judge. It's like, what is happening here? She does a handstand, kind of just fool around, while he is getting set to tee off. So she's doing a handstand. Joe Buck now, I guess, is in his backswing. And as he carries through with the rest, she does the handstand split. Now, in her defense, she was a cheerleader for the Denver Broncos, but that doesn't mean you run around doing these moves all over the place. But they were probably just having fun, laughing it up. But here is what happened. This is Joe Buck outside a hospital with his wife talking about, now this situation on a golf course played out, I think, in early July, but now she has to have surgery on her foot. Here's what happened.
So she did a headstand at the end of the tee box for good luck out into my left. And at the exact moment that I was teeing off, she decided with her feet in the air to do the splits, thereby dropping her right leg a little bit to the side, right in my line of fire, and I hit a golf ball, tailor-made with little designs on it, into the inside of her right ankle and shattered it.
That's right. Shattered.
So that's why.
Freak accident, though.
Total freak accident. It's like,
if you were having a competition, you would never, ever be able to do it. This was like God or the universe just directed this ball right into my ankle bone. Now I get to wear this.
And now we're getting surgery. Michelle is, thanks to me.
So
I mean, the whole situation really sounds like it sucks. First of all, from a husband-wife perspective, I mean, like, whose fault is it? I don't know. Are there going to be resentments? I mean, God, it's a rough deal. She hasn't been able to work on Monday Night Countdown because of what happened to her. And only hope for the best. But that story, when I saw he posted something on social media, and I was like, why is Joe Buck post? And I was kind of like, whatever. I love Joe Buck too, but I didn't watch it. And then, of course, one of those like gotcha articles with the crazy headline. I am total clickbait. And yeah, it was like a crazy story. So that's it for our wacky story on a Thursday. Coming up, though, we got Dan Ingam, First National Bank. We're going to take it to the bank. See what Dan's got in store for this week.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Dan Ingam, First National Bank, taking it to the bank, 2-0 last week.
That's right.
2-0. And by the way, you know what? Is this town big enough for Dan Ingam and Ann Harder? I don't know, because Ann is doing a podcast up here at Rogue Media in the other room. These are two big-time Central Texas news figures, okay?
So I will gladly be 1B to her 1A. I mean, Ann is like, you go to an event, Ann is the one. I actually got to MC an event with her for Mission Waco, a style show event, last month, and it was a lot of fun. And Ann's good people. So
Ann's a legend.
Yes.
And it was very cool. She was really the first big domino that fell for Rogue Media.
Sure.
Like when she decided that she had wanted to, or was recruited or whatever, to do a weekly show here, it was pretty much what she was doing on KXXV at noon or 11, and then she retired. So, yeah, having her up here is a big deal. And the reason I bring that up is because Mike Hamilton at the break came and showed Dan that when he leaves, he's got to go out a different door. Because literally,
I don't want to be the guy who messes up Ann Harder's show. That would be.
I wasn't sure if you guys couldn't see each other, whatever. There was competition from KWTX and KXXV or what, but
hey, she knows who was number 2. It's cool. Wait, did I say that out loud? No, come on. I mean, it's true. I mean, hey, it's
well, speaking of 2, we talked about it last week. You were 2-0.
Yeah,
I love your Cowboys pick. I loved it then. I love it now. What was the other game that we won?
I picked Iowa State to beat Iowa. So 2 underdogs I had winning. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah.
How did you feel about? I'm bouncing all over. But
oh, you're good.
Oklahoma State.
That was good. I was actually at the game. I went with a friend of mine up there to the game. The first half was pretty ugly. And really, I feel like Oklahoma State had no business winning the game. If I were an Arkansas fan, I'd be pretty sick right now. Oklahoma State got like 380 yards of offense. Arkansas had over 600 yards. I think in the last 200 games where someone was outgained by that margin, the team that was the 600 yards or whatever was 199-0, and now it's 199-1. And I'm not even joking. It's something like that. So this does not happen very often, and Arkansas just found a way to lose. But if you're an OSU fan, yeah, we'll take it.
Well, but would you say that OSU found a way to win?
Yeah, and so another stat I saw was in one-score games in the last 4 or 5 years, Mike Gundy 16-6, something like that, and Sam Pittman is 6-16. So
yeah,
so I'll take Mike Gundy in those situations.
Do you buy that like Sam Pittman now his job is on the line?
I mean, I don't follow it close enough, but I also know that. But I know that they've got a big, rabid fan base. There were a lot of fans there from Arkansas. It's only like 3 hours away, so I mean, they're going to expect more than that, and they've seen it win before. They've seen success there before. So, and the offensive coordinator is a guy who had a lot of success there in Bobby Petrino. So that can get kind of weird. Yeah,
that can get real weird.
Yeah.
So, with you dropping in on that game, being familiar with Baylor, what have been your impressions of the Big 12 so far this season?
Oh man, I think going into it, I thought there were a few of teams that were the top teams. I thought it was Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Utah. I think you might need to add Iowa State now. Utah, I still think Utah is the best team in the Big 12. Cam Rising, that injury doesn't seem like it's going to be something. I think they said they're pretty much going to hold him out this week and he'll be able to play in Stillwater next week. So if he's healthy, Utah's really good. I think they're the class of the conference. But I think Iowa State, what they did going on a win on the road against Iowa, they could be pretty good too. I don't know, other than maybe Central Florida, who's kind of become a sneaky kind of team that a lot of people are picking to maybe win this league. I think that's 4 or 5 folks right there.
How about Baylor? That game against Utah, I felt like they really salvaged the score being as close as it was. I mean, early in the game, I think it was still in the first quarter, Utah's up 14-0, knocking on the door.
Like that.
Yeah, and they end up kicking a field goal at 17-0, and somehow Baylor scratches and claws back. You could say Cam Rising's injury had a lot to do with that. They're headed now into this game against Air Force, where they're a 2-score favorite. What are your thoughts on Dave Aranda and where his team is positioned right now?
First things first, there's no doubt this will be a more enjoyable game than the one that I sat through with my son in November or December of 2022.
Coldest bowl game on record.
It was miserable. 13 degrees, a Baylor team that did not want to be there, and they got doubled up by an Air Force team that was let's just say a little bit tougher that day.
How long did you guys stay?
So we had club seats.
Okay,
first world problems.
Shot.
No joke. We went outside and took a picture and went back in. Never once went back out there. And the club level was packed. Oh, and I shouldn't do this on the the guy who played at Air Force and played for the Cowboys, big D lineman.
Oh, Chad Hennings.
Yeah, he was there too as an Air Force. He never went outside either. So I felt okay that he stayed. I mean, it was awful. I mean, it was the coldest I've ever been. And we parked like a half a mile away. It was, yeah.
Did
But
Chad Hennings ever actually get in an airplane?
I think he was like an A-10 pilot,
But
something
how
like that.
isn't he too tall?
He was like, oh, I mean, he looks like he could still play.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the star of that room. He's a large man. Yeah. So no matter what, it's going to be a better weekend than that. The weather's going to be better. But getting back to Baylor, I think the problems or the question I have is, do they have the right quarterback out there? I'm not sure they know yet. I mean, Finn came in from the MAC and had big numbers and won it during the summer and the spring camps. But he was, 43% of his passes he completed against Utah last weekend. So I think that obviously he's still the starter, but I think this is a big game for him because you don't forget Sawyer is back there and he has played some. And I think if Finn struggles, I think you'll see him back in the lineup.
Yeah, and Robertson is familiar
Yeah.
with this offense. The offense he played in last year is nowhere near. And the reason I bring that up is because he played poorly in that offense for the most part. This is, his cup of tea.
Right.
And I couldn't agree with you more. If Daquan Finn goes out this week and has a lukewarm performance, and let's say Baylor wins by like 6 or 5, especially if they lose, right?
Yeah.
There's a conversation happening there, I believe.
Well, because the reality is that Utah game, yes, they lost their quarterback, but there was an opening for Baylor to get back in that game if they could move the ball and put some points on the board. Because the defense they started playing better even before Rising went out. And so there was an opening there. They just couldn't get enough points on the board. Now, granted, Utah's a good team. Utah's better than Air Force. Utah may be one of the 2 or 3 best teams Baylor plays all year.
Yes.
But there was an opening after Rising got hurt to get back in that game, and they just couldn't do it.
By the way, we played sound yesterday from because we had Darby in talking about that last time Baylor and Air Force played. And it was Coach Aranda talking about after the second series, he had all this stuff to say and adjustments, and he was ready to go. He went to open his mouth and he couldn't talk.
I believe it.
And he said, I knew this was going to suck.
Yeah, it was rough.
All right. So you like Baylor this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, they're the better team. I mean, they should win. Yes, playing a team like Air Force presents some offensive challenges because it's an offense you don't see but once a year maybe. But at the end of the day, they've known that for a while. I guarantee they started game planning for Air Force this summer, and so they're ready for that. So they should win the game. And Air Force honestly is not. There's been some years where Air Force was pretty good, like a top 25 team. They have not looked great so far in the first couple games.
When we talk about the Cowboys, that was one of your picks last week, and boy, did it come through. I was so impressed with the Cowboys as a whole, in a sense that their defense dominated and their offense did what it needed to do. And that's the kind of thing that, taking a quantum leap forward can really help you out in the latter stages of the season. What did you like the most about the Cowboys week 1?
I mean, everything. Mike, if I had told you that this is the way the game was going to play out maybe 2 weeks ago, you would have been like, that is awesome. Now you're wondering, is Cleveland that good? Are they? And they have some serious issues at quarterback. But my goodness, I mean, they just stomped on him from the get-go. Ezekiel Elliott didn't look like he was an old quarterback. Dak looked good. I mean, he's a solid quarterback. I mean, you can win a lot of games with Dak. Is he Patrick Mahomes? No, but he's really good. The defense with Micah Parsons put pressure on Cleveland the entire game. There's not much to dislike out of that game. I think the competition goes up maybe a little this week, but they should be 2-0 after this weekend.
Before we get to your picks, while I have you, I got to dip into that expertise and experience you have as a broadcaster. Thoughts on Tom Brady week 1?
He seemed nervous a little bit, and I say that with like all humbleness. I mean, my goodness, I would have been too. Just because this guy was the GOAT in quarterback doesn't mean he's not going to have growing pains. He didn't get the benefit that other broadcasters do, except for Tony Romo, of getting to like work your way up. I mean, think back to your first games that you call. I could think back to my first games. My gosh, they'd be awful.
Yeah.
And so I thought he did okay. The thing I would like to see more of is just, I mean, he's a really smart guy. You tell us your insights, but figuring out how to get it in those 10-second spurts is hard. But I didn't see anything that I was like, oh, wow, he's not going to be good. I'd like to say what he's like in 3 or 4 weeks, but there were times you could tell he had a hard time processing from up here into that 10-second window he gets,
Yeah. I thought, and I know you can relate to this too, because you got great pipes. Like his voice sounded a little off, and it was because I think of the nerves. Like, I think that'll get better. Like with time and repetition, like his timbre will reemerge.
Right.
And I think he'll have more of a command.
How good is Burkhardt? I mean, he helped carry him, but not in a, oh wow, he's carrying him kind of way, or in a condescending way. I mean, he's just, God, he's good. He's
the right play-by-play guy for that situation.
He's really good.
He's comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
He's a generous play-by-play guy. You could tell like he made that real easy.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, the reverse of that. Because we were talking about Joe Buck while we were getting Zach and I while we were getting that clip ready. Jack Buck, when he was calling major league games for CBS, he worked with Tim McCarver, and as it's told in Joe Buck's book, McCarver was a real prick to Jack Buck. Like Jack Buck was new calling Major League Baseball on, such a platform, and Tim McCarver gave him no help.
Yeah.
And when you have the established guy not helping out the new guy, it can get ugly.
Well, and you think about it from from Kevin Burkhardt's perspective, like it's not like he's coming for your job. I mean, so like the reality is if you help him out, it makes the broadcast better. So like, I can't imagine being in that situation and being like, no, I don't think you should be here. You need to learn that. No, like what good does that do?
No,
because at the end of the day, you're a team and you're going to look better if your teammate looks better. I don't know.
All right. So that's a good segue into the fact that team again with Aaron Andrews, they have the Cowboys game at noon on Sunday. They welcome the Saints. Cowboys are a 6-point favorite. Now, I don't know if this is part of your picks. Is it?
No, it is not.
Okay, so who do you like? Before we get to take it to the bank with Dan Ingam here, what do you like in that game?
Well, I mean, so again, much like the Cowboys, I don't know what we know about the Saints. I mean, they might have beaten the worst team in the NFL. Carolina Panthers might be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, their quarterback, not good. It's year 2, but he just that looks like it's setting them back. So again, the Cowboys.
There's nothing worse than picking a guy at the top
and
of the
all
draft
your
and
equity in that, and that's just like, oh man, we got to start over. That hurts. Which goes back to people that are complaining about the Dak Prescott deal. All right, I get it. Is that too much for one quarterback? Yes, but what are you going to do if you want to win playoff games in a Super Bowl? You need to have a quarterback, and the Cowboys have one.
Yeah.
And so is he the number one quarterback? No. But is he someone who can win a lot of games? Yes. And is he Bryce Young? No. So that's my argument when people get mad about that.
All right, we move on now. I need you to take us to the bank.
All right.
Let's get there.
Well, I don't know that I do this every week, but it worked well for the first week. So I'm going to go with 2 underdogs again.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Memphis. The Memphis Tigers might be the best group of 5 team. Possibly. They're in the running, going on the road at Florida State. They're about a touchdown underdog. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to go in there and Florida State is going to lose again. And Memphis is going to go on the road and win. That one, that'd be a big one.
Now, we'll give you, as far as the record keeping is concerned and the bookkeeping around here, we'll give you the points, but you sound like you like the money line almost.
I would take the money line.
Wow.
If someone said, Dan, you can have the points, I'm happy to take the points as well. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go when we're talking with the NFL, I'm going to go with another team that you think, I'm going to go against the Chiefs. I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to win this weekend. They got upset by New England in that first ball game. They're going to go and play Kansas City, a team that they have had success against. Joe Burrow, when healthy, by the way, so I hope he stays healthy for this weekend, has had success before against Kansas City. So I'm going with the Bengals as my other take it to the bank.
I like it.
Yeah.
First National Bank of Central Texas. Dan Ingam, we appreciate you stopping by
this
again.
Is fun, bud.
Are we still doing the beats at the bank?
Yeah, that's right. A couple more weeks of Beats by Dan right there.
Beats by Dan. You go to the bank, you open up an account.
Heck yeah.
You get the beats.
I like it.
All right, you got the beat, Dan. I'm pumped to see how we do this week.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not as confident about these 2, but we'll see. I just wanted to pick 2 more underdogs. So,
all right, Pete Sousa Show rolls on, powered by Rogue Media when we come back.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete. Sports.
We got a Thursday night football game here in Central Texas. Of course, come on, Cam. Cam Stewart with us. Now he is getting set for tonight's Thursday night football game, China Spring, on the road at University.
Yeah.
That's
So
a big
barely
game.
on the road, but on the road. Yeah.
On the road. Well, it's closer to your house.
It's literally as short a road trip as I could possibly have.
Can you
There's
walk?
no stadium close. Yeah.
Will
And
you
I'll be
walk?
coming from ESPN Central Texas, which is right next door to it on the other side. So it's super easy.
So
If it was played in the daytime, I could walk home.
look at you're so excited about this. So who do you, because the more I get to know you, I know that you don't like logistics. So this
Yeah.
eliminates certain logistics. for
Yeah,
you.
I tried
right?
not to be like a point guy because I don't like the logistics of things.
This high school game, by
And I
the
don't
way,
have a car. I'm driving the ESPN van.
I love it. I love when
So the shorter this road trip can be, the better. I've been, just sitting on my thumbs for a couple of weeks trying to get a goddamn car, man.
But
and the
I
trade
believe
Anyway.
that the more you drive that van, the better it is for ESPN Central Texas. I mean, it's a freaking walking,
It
driving
is.
billboard,
It
rolling
is.
billboard.
Yeah. It's not great for me, but
You could
like I just want a car, man. This is gonna be my fourth car in a year
why?
because shit keeps happening.
Yeah, like
I was driving around a 20-year-old car. It was fine, but I wanted to do
what
something.
kind of car was a 20-year-old car?
Is an Accord, Honda Accord.
Good car.
Not bad, old, but not many miles on it.
Okay.
So I'm kind of done with it though. I've seen its best years. Okay. So my dad actually offers. He was like, "You can buy my Camry off of me."
Yeah, no, Camrys
And
are a great car. I drove a
Camrys
Camry for
are
a
all
long
I
time.
drove for like the first until I got that Accord a couple years ago. Love Camrys. Fucking love them. Okay, so he goes, "You can buy my Camry. I'll give you I think I bought it for like $7,000 off him." And he had to come to Texas, so he drove it down so that I could buy it there. So I had the Camry for a month until I got carjacked in my own driveway, and then they drove it away and backed it up into something.
Hold on, dude. So this
you haven't
happened.
heard this story?
No,
Yeah, I got carjacked in my driveway.
we're in Waco.
Yeah,
Okay, so you walk
North
outside.
Waco.
You start out. You walk outside to start the car.
So I was actually coming back from a Thursday night high school football game. So boy, am I going to get PTSD tonight. Some Pete Sousa SD tonight. And I was driving back. It was late. It was a road trip. So I was back at like 12:30 at night. And we had like a back alley driveway that backed right into the backyard. And
Who's we?
it was Grace and I, the house we lived in.
Okay. So Grace was there too.
Well, she was asleep.
God.
It's 12:30.
Yeah.
Pulled in, it's pitch black, and I'm kind of getting my stuff together, and my door opens. My car door opens.
On the other side.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting my stuff from the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat, and my door opens.
The passenger side.
No, the driver's side.
Okay.
Driver's side.
Gotcha.
Door
Gotcha.
opens. Gun in my face. They just wanted the car. And they only got it for a couple hours. Like the Waco PD, shout out to them, man. They found it in a couple hours. Thankfully, I still have Massachusetts plates on it. It was the only thing that was like an identifying thing. But
Were they driving around in the car?
yeah, they just wanted a place to smoke weed. And so
That's like a federal. That's like, what is that? That's big time crime, dude.
yeah, if they ever catch
Carjacking-
them, they'll probably never catch them.
Oh, so they got away.
Yeah, we got the car, but they got away. And
Okay.
they backed into something because there was like a dent in the rear there. And so I mean nothing like bad. So I'm like, oh, okay, we'll go through the insurance process, get it fixed for free, whatever. And that takes a couple of months. So I'm driving this thing around, no problem, for like 4 months. And I take it to the shop, and like 2 weeks later, I haven't heard anything. And I'm like, hey, what's up? Because I'm paying out the ass for a rental car right now. And they go, oh, yeah, this is going to be a total loss. Like, what the fuck? It's just like a dent in the bumper. They bent the frame. So any work that needs to be done after that, it's going to need a new frame. And you obviously don't do that with a car. So I have to give up the Camry. I end up getting more in the insurance payout than I paid for it. A friend's parents were selling a car, and so that's 2 cars down. It was in an Acura, like kind of an MDX, kind of a bigger one. And I was like, hell yeah, I got a good price on it. And they had it for a couple years, nothing heavy duty, no major repairs or accidents or anything. And I know these people. And so I'm like, okay, perfect. They live in Arkansas. So we drove halfway to get it. That was in April. That's car number 3. And a few weeks ago, the transmission light came on in that car. It's come on a couple times. And one place has told me everything's fine. And one told me that I need a new transmission. And so I'm waiting for a trade-in now. I'm sick of this shit. I want another Camry.
Was the car undrivable?
So the first time, absolutely. It was actually on the way here, and it was like halfway here, and I couldn't like accelerate it, man. Like I couldn't go, like I had the hazards on the whole time. I was going like 30. Even today, like if I put that shit on the highway, I know it would come back. I know I can feel it. So there's something kind of up with it, but I mean for a dealership, it's nothing. You know what I mean? Even if it needs a transmission, that's
what
nothing.
Does your significant other Grace say about this?
What is she supposed to say? She can't help me out. She lives in Chicago. I don't know.
So I want to go back to him.
I'm driving a fucking ESPN van everywhere.
We'll get off this in a second, but were you
waiting on car number?
Were you messed up from the carjacking? Like, did that like freak you out?
Did it freak me out, Pete? Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I hadn't had a gun in my face before.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if it even was a gun, who knows?
Were you just like, hey man, whatever you need?
Yep. These kids were fucking idiots, man.
How old?
I know, probably young adult, maybe still like, 17, 18, but I'm thinking more like a few years older, probably a little bit younger than me. But I get out and I'm like walking away. I'm just gonna walk into the house. You got what you want. You got your car. And like, as I'm about to walk by them, they go, all right, empty your pockets. And I only gave them my wallet, didn't give them my phone. And so they drive away and I'm pissed because I have a ton of, I just came back from working a game. So I have my backpack with like my laptop and, I had a work computer in there. I had, a couple $1,000s worth of camera equipment in there, for my DSLR camera. And when they found the car, everything was in there except for my personal computer, which kind of sucked, but it was a 10-year-old MacBook.
Okay.
It's probably worth like $100. They stole that. They didn't take the work computer out of there. Nothing else. I'm telling you, that camera stuff was probably $4,000 worth of shit in there. I just bought a new lens for like $2,500.
But so you were sort of like, you moved on. You were unfazed about that. Like,
if I was glad to get all my shit back.
Like if the Patriots lost, that's following Sunday. That probably made you more upset.
That's probably more of a hangover. I mean, like I did, because like that neighborhood, it's kind of.
What neighborhood? I mean, you don't have to say exactly where you live.
Yeah, it's North Waco.
Okay.
It's not great. I wouldn't call it like the absolute hood, but it was one of those things where I just thought, okay, this isn't dangerous. It's just poor.
Yeah.
And we rented a house there. It was a nice little house on a corner. And like after that, because some of the houses are abandoned somewhere on the street. You see that a lot in Waco.
Yeah.
So at night, it gets really dark.
Yeah.
Really dark. And like nobody had security cameras.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Nobody could catch these guys.
I know.
But and when I would go out to like take the trash out at night, I'd like hurry inside. And like I'm not kidding. Like I didn't like being out there alone. I can't fight anyone. So like I didn't love that.
It was funny because yesterday,
or like when I would pull in, I used to make sure I had everything, and maybe I'd let a song end. Never. Like as I was driving
let
up,
a song end.
As I was driving up, I would make sure I had all my shit ready to go, and I was like high beams into the alleyway now, and ran inside.
Well, so similar Waco story, sort of. So this is honestly like almost exactly 5 years ago. And it was when I first met
Darby. Great comeback.
This is when I first met Darby. Because I remember I was telling the story. She had just started at KWTX, and Darby Brown, of course, our guest yesterday. I was spotting for Roy Philpott in Atlanta or in Georgia. There's a game.
We got to count the Roy Philpott.
I love Philpott,
Drops
dude.
every day
Philpott.
on the Pizza Show. Yeah, go ahead.
A guy offered me a job working for somebody else one year doing spotting, and I said I can't. I'm with Roy, but I didn't exactly know what Roy's schedule was. And
That
he said,
guy became Jim Nantz.
he said, shit or get off the Philpott. so
That's good.
Roy's my man. He's my main man. So Roy, that's not the point of the story. I fly back from Atlanta, and I fly into Dallas, and Christy Soto, who had worked at KWTX at the time, was watching my dog while I was away. I lived in the lofts, really nice, Barron's lofts. And so Christy called me, said, I can't get in your apartment. I was like, what's the deal? She's like, it's dead bolted. I can't get in. She had the key, right? And you don't know the story? This is
No.
so she couldn't get in. So I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. My girlfriend at the time, Susan, was headed to my place. I said, Susan, in my mind, honestly, no offense to Christy, I was like, Susan's smarter than you. She'll figure it out. So Susan,
Hey, Christy's a Baylor grad. Wait
I
a
love
minute.
Christy. Christy's like literally still one of my best friends, and she's gotten a lot smarter. So she has. So she has.
Okay.
So Susan shows up, same deal. I can't get in. It's dead bolted. And I'm like, all right, like I'm going to be home in a little bit. So just, sit tight. I call the leasing office and I say, hey, this is the deal. I can't get in. I said, is it possible my dog could have like hit it, and dead bolted it? And they said, no, they said it's happened, but we really doubt it. And she said, did you lock your sliding door? Right. I said, I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, well, you can get up. If you go up the fire escape, you can get to that sliding door. I'm going to leave a key for you. That's a master for all the sliding doors. I'm going to put it on the leasing office. I'm going to church. Okay. So I'm like, okay. So now I have to go up the back of the fire escape.
Meanwhile, your poor dog.
Dude,
needs to get outside.
it gets way better or worse, depending. So I climb up there.
Mhm.
I have the key. I get home, so I tell Susan, stay here. I go up the back. I have the key. The door's open. So I'm like, whoa. I slide open this glass door and I see there is a change jar I have that's turned upside down. There's a sock where somebody was starting to put change in there. No more change. I mean, they obviously stopped halfway through. My apartment smells like, it's a nice loft too. Smells like somebody's been cooking there. They have been. So somebody's cooking like chicken and rice. My bed is soiled, soiled in the sense like somebody slept in there. Okay. But you got to imagine now, I'm walking through this apartment, like I don't have a gun. So I'm like in a karate stance every room I go. I'm like, Sadie. So I'm like calling out for my dog, like ready for somebody to jump out and get me. Right. So I see this like little knapsack on the ground and I run out the back and I'm like, Sadie's gone. Like to my girlfriend, I'm like, Sadie's gone. Like, and I'm like, I got to find her. So I'm like trying to find my dog. And she goes, I just saw a guy walking a dog that looks like Sadie. I'm like, she's like, go left, hurry. So I sprint, right? I go left. This guy is walking my dog. He's got like tattoos on his face. He is so screwed up. He doesn't even know how to apply the leash the right way. It's like he tied a knot. So I'm like, dude, give me my dog. And he's like, this is my dog. I'm like, give me the dog, dude. Right. So I'm grabbing my dog from him. He's like, I got to go back upstairs to get my bag. I'm like, dude, you're not going anywhere. This is right out inside of Fable, the coffee shop now.
This is downtown Waco.
Sunday afternoon, right? 2:00. So now I jump on top of this guy as he's trying to get back into the loft. I'm holding him down with my body weight. My dog is in my...
this is the weapon that you have that I don't have.
My dog is in my right hand, right? And the guy's like, get off me. And finally, this nice girl, Susan, my girlfriend, she's lost her mind. She's seen all this, right? So this girl comes out of Fabled and she takes the dog. She's like, do you need help with your dog? I'm like, yeah.
I'm holding this guy down.
Yeah, I mean, literally. So the police show up. This is like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I press charges against this guy? police officer was like, dude, this is like a 2nd-degree felony.
Yeah,
Like,
man. Like
This is a huge deal. So I pressed charges. They took the guy away. And it was weird. Like that night, I remember being like, I had a tough time going to sleep. You know?
I wouldn't have been able to stay in there. That night.
Yeah. We washed the sheets and everything.
But did we? Okay.
yeah.
Did we get to how he got in there?
Yeah, he climbed up the back of the fire escape and went over. He was like a loiterer. Like this was this guy's MO.
Okay, so he did that when
The sliding door
when
was
the
unlocked.
key was left there.
No, the sliding door was unlocked.
Okay, so you hadn't locked it.
No,
Okay.
he slid it open.
But
So it's on
still,
me.
that's insane though.
It's insane.
But like it is on you in a way, but you don't ever expect someone to climb up the fire escape and just jimmy the whatever slider is there.
It was nuts.
I mean, think about that. If you were home and it was locked, though,
Yeah.
and at 1 a.m. someone's trying to open your slider door, that's insane.
So obviously, being with Christy now, I broke up with this girl like 4 years ago. But she's a cool chick. I'll never forget her quote though. I was like, do you believe like Sadie? She just took off with this guy. And she goes, oh, she was a hostage.
in a way, yes. Poor
Yes,
Sadie,
I guess,
man.
yeah. But yeah.
Fuck, now, damn it, Pete. I live alone now. That shit terrifies me.
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
I'm so into
uh,
true crime, and there's a bunch of times where people just get in your apartment.
now I'm on the Salvation Army board, right? At the time.
Good for you.
I think I still am.
Good for you.
It turns out that the guy got dropped off. His brother was driving from San Antonio to Dallas. And, he's got this misfit of a brother. And he just dumped him off at the Waco Salvation Army. And there you go.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy.
So this
right?
guy, was he just like cracked out of his mind? Or
He
is
was so messed
so
up.
far gone
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I was proud of myself with the fight or flight. I like kicked in. Plus my girlfriend was watching, so I had no choice.
I wonder, like, if I did that, like I would have a fight or flight instinct, but I can't fight, man. Like I have no
you do what
muscle.
you do what you have to do.
I would like sweep the leg and that's it.
You're from
and then I'd
Boston.
verbally harass him.
You're from Boston.
I've gotten into fights before. I haven't won very many, but I've definitely seen that like kick in. I've had not to that extent, but
Who was your stats guy tonight? Did you find one?
we found one. Yep.
Who is it
I
going
don't
to be?
know, some guy my coworker guy's bringing in.
Oh, really? But you have. So will this person stand next to you and give you stats, or do they send you?
Yeah, they send it to me. So
Okay.
typically, the guy would like sit behind us and
China Spring University.
yeah,
Rogue
the
Media
person-
YouTube
I'm
page.
just thinking about this now. The
Rogue Media
person
Network.
who is not coming sits behind us the whole game, and I can't tell you how many times last game we said it was a Thursday next week, and he texted me the day before saying I forgot it. I didn't know. It was Thursday. I'm just that's kind of just hitting me now, and it's
Jack, are you going over there? No.
he's like looking at me. I don't know. You don't have to go, man. It's gonna be some good
Intern
high
Jack.
school football.
Intern Jack's not going over there. We're going for the rest of today. We look back being back tomorrow. A football Friday. It's going to give you everything you need. Zach on the wheels of steel going to take us out of here. Thank you so much for watching the Pete Sousa Show.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are Rogue Media Sports.